Will Ferrell returns in a Christmas movie along with sarcastic funny man Ryan Reynolds in the Apple original movie Spirited. It's yet another retelling of A Christmas Carol. So, is there anything in this that makes it unique, or is the whole thing going to have you just saying, "Good afternoon"? Each Christmas Eve, the Ghosts of Christmas Present selects one dark soul to be reformed by a visit from three spirits. But this season, he picked the wrong Scrooge. Clint Briggs turns the tables on his ghostly host until Present finds himself re-examining his own past, present, and future. So yeah, this is one more reimagining of Charles Dickens' classic story. But there is a twist to this one that is nice. Spirited looks at the story more from the ghost perspective than that of Scrooge that they're trying to change. Will Ferrell is playing Christmas Present, and while I'm not normally a massive fan of his work, Elf is one of my favorites with him, and I also really enjoyed him in Everything Must Go. When Ferrell is more down to earth, that's when I find him the most watchable. Now here, he's very grounded, at least as much as a ghost can be. But as Christmas Present, or simply Present, he's compassionate, censored, and hopeful. This movie's also a musical, and surprisingly, Ferrell has a really good singing voice. He's able to harmonize well, and when he takes the lead, I really enjoyed his singing. Ryan Reynolds plays Clint Briggs, the Scrooge of the story, and while his singing voice isn't as good as Ferrell's, it's not terrible. I mean, we get the exact performance that you're going to expect from Reynolds. He's quick-witted, snarky, but also charming through it all. Now, because Reynolds isn't really offering anything new, his performance kind of becomes semi-forgettable, or at least all I see is Ryan Reynolds in the part. I never actually see a character in the film. And at this point, where I love his shtick, I really want something more out of him, so that he's just not so one-dimensional and exactly the same in every single one of his performances. Octavia Spencer is also in this, and she surprised me with her singing ability too. She's always got great screen presence, and in this, she's able to command the scene while still sharing the spotlight so that she doesn't overshadow those around her. Now, I really enjoyed her dynamic with Will Ferrell because they have good chemistry and they both give off this confident yet mildly awkward air that really works for both characters. Now, the thing that really stood out to me in this was the music. The songs are written by Pasek and Paul, who brought us the music for The Greatest Showman. And this has a very stage-like performance feel to it. And even the movie is self-aware enough to call attention to the singing and dancing. So when that happens at any given time, it doesn't seem weird or even forced. The lyrics and music are infectious, and then when those are coupled with the dance choreography, I was sucked in. I loved the fluid movements of the cast as they just performed these hugely orchestrated maneuvers. And there's also a music video-esque qualities to some of the song numbers, but it works within the context of the movie, especially once that film calls out the fact that this is a musical. But as engaging as the music is, the movie feels overly long, and there were multiple times that I was checking to see how much more was left. This is a little over 2 hours, and I'm pretty sure there are some scenes that can really be cut down to make this flow more efficiently, especially since this is a very familiar story. I think that the trajectory of this is also pretty predictable, even with the twist on the story. And we can tell how things are aiming and where the story's going to end up. That wasn't a huge deal for me, but it did add to that feeling of slowness, since I knew where this was going. Sometimes it was a struggle just to sit through scenes that weren't working as well for me. As I'm sure you probably expect, there is comedy in this, and some of it worked really well for me. And I think that's when the jokes and the setups, they just felt more natural, rather than being built up for a punchline. But then not all of it worked. And actually, there was quite a bit that I know was supposed to make me laugh, but it just kind of made me cringe at how predictable the jokes were. Most of this isn't very funny, but there are moments I think that can make you chuckle. There are also some very weird choices within the story where we have a ghost who's thirsting after Ryan Reynolds. It didn't add anything to the ghost's character, and the humor wasn't even funny. I guess it was just there to confirm that most people believe he's hot. And that's fine. It's just odd within the story. And for a holiday movie, this one's not really geared towards the family. At least one with younger kids. The themes are the same that you'd get from the regular telling of A Christmas Carol, but the dialogue, I think it's certainly meant for more for the teenage and above audience. So despite the film feeling longer than it needed to be, the jokes mainly falling flat, and Ryan Reynolds not bringing anything new to the screen with his performance, this was still a semi-fun movie. I really enjoyed the twist of seeing this from the ghost perspective. It provides a fresh take on an otherwise very rote story. The musical numbers, I think they're also spectacular, and I can see myself rewatching just simply to hear them all again. So overall, Spirited excels when showcasing the song and dance choreography of the infectious tunes, but fails in the comedy department, only delivering mildly humorous interactions. The dynamic between the leads is good with timing and chemistry that it feels natural. Ryan Reynolds offers nothing new here, but Will Ferrell shines in his grounded and subdued role. And while the film does outstay its welcome, the twist on the storytelling is enjoyable and can make for a decent holiday watch. There's no sex or nudity, a ton of profanity, and some violence. I give Spirited 3 out of 5 couches. So what's your go-to Christmas movie? I have several, but Christmas Vacation probably tops them all. But let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.